Welcome to Football's Play to Win with Falcons All-Pro defensive end Chuck Smith, Falcons All-Pro offensive tackle Bob Whitfield, Falcons All-Pro wide receiver Terrence Mathis, and your host, Nikki Williams.
And welcome to another week of Football's Play to Win, week 6 of the NFL season. And all of our experts are here to weigh in on everything that's going on. Bob Whitfield, Chuck Smith, and welcome back to Terrence Mathis, Atlanta Falcons legends on deck today to discuss everything going on around the league. And right off the top, I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs in that shootout with the Las Vegas Raiders. Not many teams can go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, but the Raiders did it. So my question to you, and Terrence, I'll start off with you here. Has Gruden taken the reign with the Raiders?
I'm going to have to, you know what? This week only, I'm going to bow down to you, Chuck. I'm going to bow down to you, Chuck. I didn't believe the Raiders and John Gruden and Mayock had something going on, but they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And, honestly, it wasn't really close. They manhandled them. So, Chuck, kudos to you for calling that.
Kudos back to you too, Terrence. Looking good. I like the GQ edition of the show right now. Looking good, Terrence. Bob, Nikki, I like what you got on. But, I will, accept your sort of apology, kind of backhanded, compliment. But look, again, give the Raiders a lot of credit. There's nobody that had as much attrition as the the Las Vegas Raiders when John Gruden gave up picks, gave up players for, to get picks, got rid of Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, all those different things. But this team is young. They're aggressive. They have a tough mindset. Derek Carr is playing quarterback like he was drafted to be, and that's being a star. I think the future is bright for this Raiders team because they're not quite there yet, and you can see where they need to add some more pieces in. But this Raiders team right now is phenomenal. And I'm excited to have the Raiders back in the NFL.
Yeah, they got some oomph with the running back, Josh Jacobs. But I say they also got, that steady competition at Kansas City in the conference. But everybody else, Justin Herbert with the Chargers, he's been playing good. But I think the veteran quarterback at the Raiders will withstand him. So, yeah, it's going to be a two-way competition, I believe, for the top of that division between Kansas City and the Raiders got one game edge up on them right now. But it's one of those storylines of head coach GM coming together and building a roster. You saw it with now Oakland Raiders did it. San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch did it. It's one of those things where the nucleus at the top making decisions aside the head coach and bringing in the right players, like Chuck said, giving up draft picks, giving up stars to bring in your nucleus of the team. It's starting to show off. So I think other teams definitely are going to be envious of what Oakland is doing right now.
It's always crazy until it's not, right?
Yeah. Well, what the Raiders have done, they went back to what they're known for, speed. Speed on the edge, speed in the secondary, speed in the backfield. But then they went back to being them dirty, hard-hitting, flying around defensive players too. So they went back to the old style, and it's working for them right now.
And we like to do this every week, just kind of go around our rooms and talk about their biggest surprise from the previous week. And aside from that huge upset, Chuck, what would you say is your biggest surprise thus far coming in here to the next week of the season?
My biggest surprise right now is the Carolina Panthers and Teddy Bridgewater sitting in at 3-2. This team has come out. Teddy Bridgewater has shown that he was worth all the money that Carolina gave him and also validating why you got to let Cam Newton go. So when you think about Carolina, there's a storyline about Cam Newton that they got rid of the best player ever in the franchise and brought in a guy who's kind of been a backup and been beat up health-wise. Well, Teddy Bridgewater and the Carolina Panthers, in my opinion, are one of the stories of the NFL year right now. I'm fascinated by what Carolina has done, particularly with the new coach and the new quarterback.
Bob?
Yeah, he said new coaches, and I think there's some success with some new coaching hires out there that's turning teams around. What you have in Stefanski, he's turning his team around, and then the the team who's one of my favorite squads because I play there and is not turning a team around is the struggles of the New York Giants. And Coach Rule in Carolina is one of those new coaches that's having some success. So it's a topsy-turvy league where you see some new coaching hires come in and get their squads playing well, then others are still sucking it up. So it's going to be one of those things. And we had two coaches now and GMs, two coaches and GMs fired. So I think you're going to see, some more change in the league, but also the excitement that these young coaches are having some success early on.
Terrence, your biggest surprise thus far?
I don't know if I call it a surprise or not, but I think that my surprise is how Dak Prescott got hurt, and how is that going to affect the team going forward, and how that's going to affect his career going forward, because we all know that he was playing very well at a high level, and this happens. And we knew he was playing for a contract next year, a long-term deal with a lot of money behind it, and we're going to see how that's going to affect him. But, right now, I think the Dallas Cowboys got to find themselves some way, somehow. But, they got Andy Dalton that comes in as a proven starter, and he has to right the ship for them.
And while we're on the subject of surprises, how about the biggest non-surprise thus far, which is the firing of Dan Quinn at the Atlanta Falcons? We've been talking about it for weeks. It was really just a matter of time as far as most of us were concerned. It's now happened, along with Dimitroff. So, Chuck, I want to start with you on just your general thoughts on where we're at now after the firing of Dan Quinn.
Disappointing. Shameful, really, when you look at it. When you look at this organization right now, when you look at what Dan Quinn was given, he was given listen, Dan Quinn was given more resources for this franchise than any other coach ever in this franchise's history. He was given a GM that was willing to trade to do anything he had to do to get his picks. He was willing to. They gave him new coordinators. They would change the staff. They changed the protocol. They bring in specialists from the outside. They did everything you could never ask. Dan Quinn wasn't successful because he's not a good coach at this point in time. He's not the kind of coach to put players in position to win and do the kind of things it takes. Now, let's go to Thomas Dimitroff, the general manager. He was given the reins for, I think, 13 years of this debacle, and he deserved to get canned because you can only evaluate the personnel by what they do on the field. These cats ain't getting it done. They go in spurts, seems like the Falcons do, but to me, both of them got canned, Nikki, because they were given the keys, and you had everything in your hands. And if you can't get it done here in Atlanta with what Arthur Blank gave them cats, man, you ain't going to get it done.
They had the keys to the Maserati and drove it into a pond.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Straight crashed it, straight curbed it. But yeah. I don't think to me, I still feel that Arthur was drastic in his decision just because if the team is going downhill, let's see how far they tank, because that's going to show your resiliency of what players you keep. And I don't think that this Falcon team is just going to give up hope. I think that they have enough players that's playing for all the right reasons and even some of the selfish reasons that they're trying to get big money deals going forward. I think what you also have to look at is when you have so much change from a Super Bowl team to where now the stop gaps that you putting in place are basically veteran players that might come in for a season or two, whatever, and it's not the same. So that whole Super Bowl run is gone, and the mojo that it had, that brotherhood that you saw, was gone. So it's almost like they reported it got stale in the locker room, but I can see it being beyond stale. It got moldy, old, and stank. So it was one of the things that was going to happen if they didn't win, and it happened.
So you bring up a really good point from an individual player's perspective. If you've not played well this far in the season, do you feel like that kind of gives you another chance to take the stage and show what you've got, and it kind of maybe be left with the last coach's error, your bad playing?
Well,
like maybe it wasn't me, it was the coach.
Yeah, I say this, as Bob said, right now there has to be a little selfishness going on in that locker room, but in a team concept. You see what I'm saying? So you got to say, I want mine. I got to get mine because I want another job next year, or I want a new contract next year. So it got to be a level of selfishness and say, hey, man, I got to look out for myself right now. But in the team concept of what we do offensively, defensively, and special teams wise. Now, going back to, you got to look at this team. This team, they concentrated on the top 22 players. So this goes back to drafting. So, you try to put the best 22 players on the field at, offensively and defensively, but you should have been trying to gather the best 43 because you knew at some point in some time one of the 22 were going to get hurt and you needed to have somebody to step up to challenge that, and play well for you. Because I always say that guy in that meeting room, offensively, defensively, receivers, DBs, D-line, O-line, whatever it may be, that lead dog has to make everybody better in that room because that's the only way you're going to win. And I don't think the Falcons did that.
No, they didn't do it.
Well, yeah, Nikki, I just think that when you look at this Falcons, you look at this opportunity, Nikki, I think it comes back down to, like Terrence said, having an entire team of players, and I've been a player that when the coach got fired, man, I celebrated. Listen, in 1995, 1996, when June Jones got fired, man, I was so happy because June and I didn't see eye to eye on certain stuff. It just is what it is. June was an offensive-minded player. June did everything for Terrence and Bob, these two cats I'm talking to. It was all about the offense. How many times can we throw? Listen, practice was dictated by how effective the offense was. So we might be out there extra 30 minutes if they had a bad day, playing and, rushing the passer. So they loved June. I know T-Mac, he gave Terrence a great opportunity. June Jones, he showed Bob, mad love. But the point is, for me personally, when he got fired, Nikki, I promise you, it was the best day ever. I celebrated. Matter of fact, I helped them get up out the door. I said, hey, we need another head coach. I went into the AJC. I told, what's his name? Anyway, long old school stuff. But I said, if we don't get a defensive-minded head coach, we are forever going to be scrubs and be soft. So the point being, Nikki, so it's two sides to this thing.
And speaking of, if we don't get a new head coach, so now who should be the new head coach? Obviously, Raheem Morris is the interim, but who do you guys think should replace Dan Quinn?
There's definitely going to be a color rush, and we're not talking about those new uniforms with the changing degree of red and black. I think that they're going to have to look at an African-American coach, not just for the Rooney Rule's sake, but to bring a new synergy with the fans that they have lost. And this is one of the things that I know Arthur values is the fans and his consumers. And what he's seeing is that, the thing is changing, the culture's changing, and how can I rely on the culture to actually bring more Falcons fans? Nikki, I think you said you went to the first Falcons game when it opened up, and it was no fans in there. So,
well, they're not allowed to
be a Falcons fan.
Well, they're not allowed to have but 10 to 20,000 because they're only able to because of COVID restrictions. But I have another question.
How many show up?
I have no idea. I didn't count. I mean, it was bare. It was bare bones. But my question to you out of that, so if the emphasis is going to be on finding an African-American head coach and you find one, but maybe it's not going to be the coach that takes you to the Super Bowl, do you go with that option just because they're African-American? Or do you switch gears to going back to possibly an African-American quarterback? Do you think that would satisfy the needs of the Atlanta fan base?
Well, Terrence going to speak on the number one coach out there who's an offensive-minded coach, and that's Eric Bieniemy.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Eric Bieniemy.
It's crazy he's not a head coach.
Right now, the hottest candidate out here is Eric Bieniemy at Kansas City. I think he should have been a head coach last year. But I'm going to tell you this, he's going to have to pick a litter because he may be able to get Deshaun Watson in Houston and take that young guy and build around him and taking a guy that's a 13-year vet or whatsoever and take a roster that's that may be going at the end of this year. So I think, he's going to have choices. And if he feels intrigued with Julio Jones, Ridley, and Matt Ryan, and if Gurley wants to come back, he'll take that job. But I don't know. He's going to have the pick of the litter. And right now, people want offensive-minded coach. You had a defensive-minded coach over here the last 6 years, and well, there's three. They had three coaches this year. They had a pass game coordinator, run game coordinator, and Dan Quinn was the final say, and that was his destruction right there.
I want to go back to that question that Bob skipped over, like he was, up on the Supreme Court getting questioned. He just kind of glossed over that and threw it right to Terrence real quick. about the Nikki, that was a good question you asked him about, getting a black coach. Basically, you're saying get the best available coach, and if the best available coach is African American, yeah. But my thing is, here's the crazy part: we've already seen that most of the time in these jobs that people always go and get the best available white coach. Because that's why we are right now almost trying to force ourselves to say, hey, well, let's get the best available black coach. But I'll tell you this, though. I'm getting the best available African-American coach. I'm getting the best of it. I never thought about it, Bob, until you said that, but my mind is thinking. So I want to tell it to our viewers. In Atlanta, where this town is, the fan base has the most black season ticket holders in the team in the league, man, you talking about turning that thing around. But I think the best available coach happens to be black. It's Eric Bieniemy, T-Matt. So I don't think there's no debating about that. I like that thought.
Right. No debate at all. He's the number one candidate out there right now.
And Josh McDaniels shouldn't be in the conversation at all.
No, he should not be in the conversation.
You
know who else came up in the conversation was Joe Brady at Carolina. I'm like, no, why do you guys always do that? Why does the media always do that? They want to bring somebody in that we know are not qualified to be an NFL head coach and skip over the African-American coaches or even other coaches that are more qualified. They always want this brand new face to tear up franchises. And the NFL is going to have to stop doing that.
Moving on to Dak and that injury that none of us want to watch ever again. Terrence, you brought this up earlier. What do we think this means for the future of his career? If you are Dak, and you guys have all been players that have been injured before, what's going through your mind right now? Chuck, I'll start with you.
I feel sad for him, man, because the guy worked hard. I was watching it live. And I remember when they went and flashed to him, he was on the ground, he was holding his ankle, like pointing to it. It was so twisted that it looked like it was normal, like just a normal injury, but it had twisted, was all broken and fractured and twisted up. I tore my ACL as an NFL player also, had a bad injury that really carried, I still deal with today in my life. It's something that he'll have to deal with for the rest of his life. That's the one thing about injuries. They don't ever end for the players. And I just hope that he'll get back. He'll be fine. But it's terrible for him personally and for the Cowboys.
Bob?
Moneyball issue right there. They didn't want to give him the long-term contract. And I said it's one of the things that the league does is that they make guys prove themselves. When you come out of college and you're a first-round draft pick, it was already proven for you. But when you're a mid-round draft pick, they want you to prove yourself over and over again. And they were slow to give Dak the full reins. They were slow to give him that $100 million deal like you've seen these other quarterbacks get in his era. You saw the Mahomes get, and Mahomes is younger. You saw, Super Bowl winner, but you got Lamar Jackson get a new deal. So it's one of those things where the $100 million kind of escaped Dak. He was working off a franchise deal of $30 million. And now you got a broke up quarterback that you don't know how he's going to recover from that injury. And I know the team has promised that he's still their guy and they might take care of him. But if that team tanks and you can get the number 1 overall pick, I will say that Jerry Jones is old and he might forget how much he loved Dak for those years and try to go get a Trevor Lawrence. So it's one of those things. I say that I don't want to jinx Dak Prescott, but I'd expect Dak will not be the starting quarterback for Dallas Cowboys going forward anymore.
So, Terrence, if you're Dak, are you questioning the loyalty?
Well, I'm questioning the loyalty, but I believe that, I hate to say it, he plays quarterback. If he was a receiver or running back with that ankle injury, I'd be more concerned. But I think he can get away with it as a quarterback coming back. I think he has the the desire to come back stronger and better next year and prove that he can bounce back. And you know what? I don't see the fact. I don't see. I'm sorry. I don't see the Cowboys tanking at all because of the pride that Jerry Jones have and that whole organization. So I don't see them tanking, or I don't believe they will tank because they play in a division right now where they can go 8-8 and make the playoffs.
Well, let's look at some other games around the league going into week 6. The Browns and the Steelers both playing pretty well. What are your thoughts on this game, and what are you most excited about? And Terrence, you're already nodding your head, so you're starting this one.
This is one of those games right there where the AFC North. I played with the Steelers for a year, and Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh my God, there's gonna be some snot knockers going on in that game, and both teams think they're the best in the division right now. Ben is playing well, the Steelers is playing well, but the Browns have found their groove, and I'm not gonna even count them out of beating the Steelers this weekend.
Snot knockers. What a term. Bob?
No, yeah, that's hard hitting. And what you got is you got some active young players on both squads. You know, Cleveland got a good first round offensive lineman that's playing well. They lost Nick Chubb at running back, the great Georgia running back, who was at the time of his injury, I believe he was leading the league. But they have backup in Kareem Hunt and some other guys that can carry the load. And what Cleveland also has is this defensive power, prowess. They got a nice edge rusher in Myles Garrett, so that they can hang. And I think the experience of Big Ben is going to be the deciding factor, because Big Ben still stays strong and late in that pocket. So he is not a quarterback that's scared to get hit by any pass rusher. And I think that him and his resiliency of finding new weapons, in like Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame, finding new weapons to score with, is one of the things that makes Big Ben one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Chuck, what are you watching for?
Chuck, he's smiling over there with the porn stash.
I know.
Man.
It's like he's ready to.
Did he just say that?
Hey,
He did.
I got you to bump my head in here. Look, you done bumped your head too. Look, Nikki, I got you, Nikki. I got you. No, first let's talk about this. I want to talk about stability. Everything that Pittsburgh is, Cleveland wants to be. And number one, it starts with the head coach, Mike Tomlin. He is Mr. Consistent. Remember, this Pittsburgh team, since he's been head coach, has never had a losing season. This Pittsburgh team, they've won Super Bowls, right? This Pittsburgh team right now, defensively, is everything Cleveland wants to be. Start in the middle with Cam Hayward, an absolute bruiser. Stephon Tuitt at the other tackle. Throw in Bud Dupree at one linebacker, TJ Watt. Then you throw in Devin Bush Jr. Then you throw in Minkah Fitzpatrick at the safety. This defense is the best defense, in my opinion, in the NFL. A lot of people think Baltimore, but right now it's Pittsburgh. I like James Conner running the ball, even though he's my fantasy running back. I like you. I'm going to need you, James. All right, stepping up at running back. Nikki, this Pittsburgh team is everything, literally, even down to the organization that Cleveland strives to be. Let's see how they do on the field this week.
Ooh, let's see it. And while I have your attention, Chuck, I want you to start this one for us. Aaron and Tom Brady going head to head. That's Monday Night Football. How do you see it going?
Nikki, I really love both of these quarterbacks. But to me, I really believe this is going to be the coming out party, if there is such a thing, for Tom Brady. I really believe everybody right now.
What kind of coming out party?
Yeah, well, it was National Coming Out Day, last week? Or was it anyway? But so
What kind of coming out party talking about?
Hey. But look, coming out meaning everybody's already crowning Green Bay. Green Bay is 4-0, I think. So, but look, when Tampa takes care of business, because Tampa's more than just a quarterback throwing the ball. They got a defense. They got Shaq Barrett, last year's NFL sack leader, fantastic. But also at running back, his name is Barber. He's been toting the rock. We know what they can do throwing the ball. But I think this is a coming out party, Nikki, specifically because it shows that Tampa knocks off one of the big boy powerhouse teams that's undefeated in the NFC, and that's the start. And to me, that's the coming out.
Bob, what kind of coming out party is it?
I don't see it because
No?
what I see is a veteran quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who's still lighting it up, who still got arm strength, who still can throw off a back foot 70 yards down the field. And I see old noodle arm Tom Brady, who in the Belichick, however you say it, offense, in that New England offense, he was check down king. He had James White check down king. He was short route king. In this new Tampa offense, it has a little more light up plays deeper down the middle, deeper down the sides with those receivers, Mike Evans and those guys, and those tight ends. So it's one of those things that Tom Brady was still looking for his Julian Edelman, and he found one in that receiver, but that offense is not built like the Patriot offense to let Tom Brady dink and dunk down the field with these short routes. This offense that Tampa has stretches the field, and Tom Brady's arm, as I saw it, doesn't stretch as long as it should. It doesn't hit those routes as well, and those receivers are making amazing catches to bail them out.
What Tom Brady right now is playing, Tom Brady is playing to try to prove something, that it wasn't Belichick and the Patriots that made him. It was him that made the Patriots. So he's playing a little tight to me right now. But Aaron Rodgers is that dude right now. He's trying to prove to Green Bay and its personnel staff that he is the face of the franchise for this time and time to come. So I'm not going to bet against Aaron Rodgers. Not in this game. Monday night is going to be a spectacular game, but Aaron Rodgers is going to come out on top.
What about the Bills and the Chiefs? That's a big game to talk about. Bob?
Well, the Bills were riding high until they met into a Tuesday night buzzsaw in Tennessee and got kind of exposed. Especially Josh Norman got exposed in the stiff arm through the chops by that great running back in Henry. But I think what you have the epitome of the new style of quarterback. That's the sizable 6'6", can throw down the field, but also can run and extend plays with his legs and is not scared to mix it up. So I think that's what gives Buffalo a nice offensive advantage, is that your quarterback is tenacious and he likes to mix it up. But also, I just think that Buffalo had a good start that was extension from last year, and that they able to show up on defense. They had a first rounder on defense that's playing, I forgot his name, Jerry, the defensive tackle. So he's one of those guys that they going to play to try to win that division, and they should, as we all looking at it, should be able to challenge Cam Newton for that top spot in the NFC East.
And now Buffalo out of the undefeated conversation. The teams that are left, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Seattle, Tennessee, can Tannehill keep playing this well, or is this headed for a wall? Chuck?
Oh, I absolutely think Tannehill can continue to do it. Let me tell you why. Because he has a running game. He has Derrick Henry back there, who is the focal point of this offense. So, works well when the offensive line, which is a solid offensive line, is successful. They're blocking, knocking people around. Derrick Henry's, averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry. Then it makes it easier for Tannehill, to come out and do play action pass. I think so, Nikki. It's a solid defense, not spectacular on defense, but I just think he's found his niche. And sometimes changing organizations is the key to just having a different vibe and different opportunity. I think Tannehill is reaping the benefits of a transition to Tennessee.
Terrence?
Well, I agree, because when you taste winning, as they did last year, and they come into this year and playing well, you want that feeling all the time. And I think they found something. Like Chuck said, offensively, it's about Derrick Henry and the way he plays. And if he plays well, they play well. And like you said, when you have a good running game, the play action game is just spectacular. And they're doing a good job right now. And like you said, Chuck, the defense is not outstanding, but they play well. And right now that AFC is up for grabs.
So, Bob, who do you think left in the mix of the teams that are undefeated is the next to be escorted out of the VIP section?
That's tough to say, but I think the Seattle Seahawks, even though Russ is cooking in the kitchen, they showed some vulnerability, and they don't have that same staunch Seattle defense. and they don't get to use the Seattle crowd noise to their advantage. So I think I would say Seattle might be the first, just because they play in a tough division against San Francisco. If San Francisco can figure out what they're doing at quarterback, get some players back on the roster who's been hurt. So I would say Seattle before anybody else.
Well, the Jets have released Le'Veon Bell. So my question to you guys is, what is next for Bell? Chuck?
And he just need to figure it out. At some point, you got to figure it out and fit into the team. You know, so it says to me, especially at Pittsburgh, it was really about money, but some of the things, the way he handled himself towards the end was kind of whack. But I don't know what's going to happen, but this is to me, it just seems like, and I'm not in the locker room, but like, gosh, when a team just cuts you, they don't want you around, that says a lot. And I mean, they just get rid of you for nothing. No one wants to trade for you, and no one around the league wanted him. You know, and there was money involved, Nikki, when it came to
$6 million.
Right.
$6 million guaranteed. Yeah.
I don't want cats like that on my team. I already had cats. We had enough prima donnas on the team I was on, so I understand having cohesiveness and peace in your locker room. I'd rather have a good player that's, you know, hard-nosed, is all about the team, than having an incredible legendary type player like he kind of is, and who's always got stuff going on, distraction. So if I'm on that team, from what I'm hearing, I'd rather play without him.
Chuck, you're right. He has to find out what he wants to do and who he wants to be. Does he want to be a team player and play football, make a whole lot of money, win championships, get a ring, or does he just want to be a me guy? And it's all about me, doing rap, music, and all these things. And, you know, you can't just not show up, man. You got to be there if you're part of the team. You got to be there, all in or not.
No, because that's not the only bad situation for players. It's a curse coming out of Pittsburgh, I guess. When you're a superstar in Pittsburgh but try to get a new job or a raise or something, it happened to Antonio Brown, where you had to speak your mind to get your money right. And the same thing happened with Le'Veon Bell. And what was the crux of his issue was that they were trying to pay him running back money when he was damn near the leading receiver on the team. And the receiver money is a lot different than running back money. So it was one of those things that he had a lot of touches and he wanted to be paid for his touches. So he had to do drastic steps to get money. And when athletes have to do drastic steps to get money, what happens to those athletes? They get alienated by the league. So it's one of the things that I listened to Chuck, and yeah, it's tough to have that prima donna, so to speak, on the team. But if I was that prima donna when it came up to a contract year and I knew I was deserving of a long-term deal, Dak Prescott, sometimes I got to put on my ballet shoes and twirl because y'all not listening to what's going on. And the idea is that as soon as Le'Veon Bell talked about his contract, it did drive a wedge because his teammates didn't like him holding out for that contract. So it's one of those things is that, the team can support you. Same way I told June that, we rock with Terrence, so we definitely got to bring Terrence back. Or your teammates can hate on you and be like, we don't need him in the locker room. And I think that's what you saw here.
Ooh. Bob just took us all to church, didn't he?
Wait a minute. Wait, Ho. You had a conversation about June bringing me back?
Yeah, because when I was the guy, I had to tell. I was like, June, since we spilling the beans, you know what June said?
Okay.
You gotta say June Jones, man. June Jones.
June Jones said when I mentioned this, it was a contract year for me and Terrence both. And June Jones said, you better worry about your money because I'll make a new Terrence. That's what he said.
Wow.
That's what he said. He'll make a new Terrence.
So
it's one of those things like, it's hard for a player.
Yeah.
Wow.
He couldn't.
It's hard for a player.
They tried over the years, but they couldn't.
Ooh,
man, I didn't know
spilling the tea. Yeah, spilling the tea on here. I love it. What about Dwayne Haskins? All those trade rumors. Do you think that he's about to make moves? Terrence?
No, they can't get rid of him yet. Nick, they can't get rid of Haskins yet. I mean, the first part of the season, this team is still, it's an average team. They still got drafts to that need to be had to help solidify the offensive line. At wide receiver, this isn't a team that scares you at wide receiver. They knew he was young when he came out. He's still young. He's in his second year. He came out, I want to say, as a true junior, but was still young in age. To me, if you trade him now, you're saying that we think he has no opportunity. But to me, I don't think you can trade this young man. I think you got to continue to try to develop him and develop a team around him that's immature.
Is the clock ticking on the Jimmy G era in San Fran? Bob?
Well, the same way he got there could be the same way he leaves. And Jimmy G, they brought him in from a backup position off the Patriots roster, and they wrapped some talent around him, and they put him in position to win. And now that they have him out there, the coach pulled him from the game because he wasn't giving them the best opportunity to win. So it's one of those things. Jimmy G was always going to be on a short leash. I think they liked him because his model looks was as appealing to the fan base, but those weren't model throws he were doing last week. And you cannot be an inaccurate quarterback in this Kyle Shanahan offense, even though it's led by a running attack and an outside zone play that sets up play action. Your level of accuracy to throw those routes to those tight ends, to those receivers, to the slants and all that, you got to be there, and you got to hit running backs out the backfield. You got to play in that offense with a high level of efficiency. So Jimmy G can easy come, easy go for Jimmy G because they are constantly evaluating that position, and they got some tradable guys out there that's young players because, even the Jets quarterback is vulnerable right now when they start putting a veteran quarterback in a starting role. Same as we said with Dwayne Haskins. You get Alex to come in and start who had a tore up leg, and now he's playing. It's like, hey, if I can't win with who I thought was my team leader quarterback, then I'm going to lose my job by trying to stand by that quarterback. So sometimes a hard decision got to be made, and Jimmy G is seeing the writing on the wall of that decision.
All right, let's put a bow on the show with a final thought for the week. Terrence, I'm going to let you take this one.
COVID has been a distraction in all levels of football, and now it has hit the NFL. And the thing is, how can you tell young people to stay at home? But at the end of the day, you got to consider when they start naming names who have COVID whatsoever, you got to understand their kids go to school, their significant others, their wives go shopping, and they do things. So we don't think that a player, far like as Cam Newton, is out there in the clubs partying and not taking care of himself. There's no real reason, or we don't know where he got COVID from. So please be patient with these guys and the NFL.
Well said. Thank you guys so much always for sharing your expertise and unique perspectives with us. We can't wait to be with all of you again next week. Thanks for joining us on another week of Football's Play to Win.